All right, everybody, I got 6:30. We'll call the regular meeting of the Common Council to order. We'll start with roll call, please.
Seth,
Here.
Andrew,
Here.
Todd Kirking,
Here.
Emma, Todd Spath,
Here.
Cindy, here. John and Tanya will not be here. Steve
Here.
and Justin.
Here. Pledge of Allegiance. All right, item number 2, approval of the November 25th, 2025 regular council minutes.
This is AJ. I would move approval.
Steve, second.
Got a motion and a second. Any additions or corrections? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item number 3, council announcements. Any member of the council have anything?
I did, and now I found what I was supposed to have said last time. It's this week, there's at the high school, they have elected officials. They're asked to go, and I'm hoping that some of you will go. It's always interesting. Brad Paff hasn't showed up, but Tara Johnson has showed up. I think Brad Paff's representative. This new superintendent or administrators there, and they talk about what they're doing and how we can, how our money's being used, and it's just worthwhile for the council members to go. So I said that I would encourage you to go.
The legislative linkage.
Yeah, everyone should have gotten an email about it.
I've been to that before. It's
Yeah.
really good. So
It's
if you
worth
have the
going
time,
to.
it's certainly worth.
When is it? You have the thing in front of you
5:30.
on tomorrow at
Yes,
5:30.
5:30, December 10th.
Okay. So anyway, I'd encourage you to go
Yeah.
if you can.
And it's not a big public event. I mean, it's a
No.
small sitting around the table, just having good conversations. Like
Yeah.
it's a pretty good event.
There's food.
Yeah, well, got to have that at 5:30.
Is that at the high school commons?
They
Do you have
did a
the-
room, they gave a room number. It's usually the library, but they gave a room number this year.
The last one I was,
There's a door, you go to you go to school, there's a door on the right, and I'm saying, board meeting, whatever, down that hall.
sure,
I can't hear Kim, by the way. I think that she's not on the mic.
down to like where I know it's like
Think, yeah.
halfway down that hallway on the right-hand side, but it's the left-hand room. Yeah. It's easy to find, if that's the room, the one I was, yeah, yep.
I'm planning on going as long as the roads aren't awful
Sure.
tomorrow afternoon. So
Oh, it's worth the
Yeah.
point. So thank you for bringing that
Yeah.
up, Cindy. Do you remember what other thing you had?
No, this was the one that I
Okay.
was.
Okay. Anything else from anybody? All right. Item number 4, first period for public comment. Kim's here, but I don't know if there's anybody online that would like to make a public comment. If so, now would be the time.
So you're good, man.
Hearing none, we'll move on to item number 5, which is review and approval of extraterritorial certified survey map for Jason and Nikki Steele.
This one went to Plan Commission. They're basically lotting off 2.93 acres and then 2.65 acres. This is in the town of Viroqua, so it's an extraterritorial. The Plan Commission forwarded it with their approval, and just looking for your guys' approval on this as well.
I'd make a motion, we approve the territorial map.
I don't second it.
Got a motion, a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
I
Opposed? All right. Item number 6, reappointment of Alice-Ann Taylor to the Police and Fire Commission for a 5-year term expiring 5/1 of 2030. I spoke with Alice-Ann. She was willing to continue serving. I think she does a great job on the Police and Fire Commission. So
this is Emma, and I make a motion to reappoint Allison Taylor to Police and Fire Commission for a 5-year term.
This is Todd. I'll second it.
motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, moving so fast, I can't even keep up. Item number 7, review and approval of election worker listing for 2026, 2027.
Okay, every 2 years I need to bring a listing to you. I have not received anything. The deadline is passed from any of the political parties. So I have used most of these in the past. Some of them are a few new ones that I've requested to be put on the list that have expressed interest and so I have contacted each and every one of these that are willing to either redo it or they wanted to be added to the list. So this is the list that I'm putting forward for your guys' approval. If you feel that there is any need that some of these either come off or you wanted to add any on, this would be the time because the only time I'm technically supposed to have different workers on there is when one of these would not be available. Or if somebody would have to come off for some reason. So you're gonna notice that like Tanya is on there, but she would not be able to work in the elections in the spring because of the fact that she's on as a council member, so she could do the fall elections. I have technically 3 chief inspectors. We have one that during the year, the last 2 years, she took another job, so wasn't able to, so I did have a third person that Jim Garrity that stepped up and took the classes. So I have 3 trained chief inspectors, which is what we're only required to have 1, but thankfully I have 3 because if somebody gets sick, somebody else can step into that role. So just looking for your guys' approval.
I make a motion, we approve the election worker list for 26, 27.
I don't second it.
Got a motion, a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, item number 8, operator license approvals.
Public safety met tonight. I had 1 operator license for Mary Nedlin for Tangled Hickory. Was a new one. The background check came back okay, so this is being forwarded with their approval for your approval.
This is Todd. I make a motion to approve the operator licenses.
This is Seth, I'd second.
Got a motion, a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 All right. Item number 9, discussion with possible action on land use agreement for Baroka Ridge Runners.
Last year, you folks had approved an agreement with Ridge Runners for the Hanson Farm property. I'll go ahead and
Nate, I can't hear you for some reason.
Emma. So we had approved a agreement for the Hanson Farm property for use by the Snowmobile Club. And if you look online here, the previous route was basically this sort of shaded color, ended up at Gassers. Because of they approached us again, and we had told them, it's like, we're going to be developing that lane. You probably can't use it anymore. And they asked us again and says, are you sure we can't use it maybe this year still? And we're like, well, let's take a look. The problem is that the previous route now goes through where there's grading, underground utilities, stuff being staged, and it just would be like incredibly dangerous to send people through. But between Sarah and Todd Wedwick, who I told he didn't need to be here tonight, is like, I think we know who you are. We worked with the club before. I think we know it well enough to represent it, but that's why he's not here. He did offer to be here, so which was kind of him. Through his work, he had worked with the Eagles Club, who owns the property up here, and Spanky owns this property here. And then they would be looking at sort of using the east side of the Hanson Farm here to get down to Gassers. And it sounds like everybody's on board. And essentially what this is the same agreement you signed last year that was put together by George Hopkins, with the only changes being, of course, the dates of, making it for the 26-27 season, as well as this section here that basically says it's now, instead of the Hanson Farm as a whole, it's the Vernon County tax parcel 286, this as shown on the map, and that we're essentially don't take this as us giving you permission to use any other landowner's property. Even though you're showing us the route for context, we're not giving you permission to use Spanky's, the Eagles. You have to go get that on your own. So this is would be in front of you for consideration. Sarah's done a great job again, making sure that she's sort of directing people in a safe manner given the construction project. And at this point, we don't have any concerns with them using the property for the season.
This is Seth. I move that we approve the rerouted land use agreement with Viroqua Ridge Runners for the Vernon County tax parcel, as noted.
Sage, I'll second.
Got a motion and a second. Any other questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right. Item number 10, discussion with possible action on Eckhart Playground and Play by Design contract.
Well, we're at a key decision-making point tonight. Kale, you can grab there if you want to grab one of the, maybe sit here so that way if we need Kim, she can jump up. So there's three things that we're going to want to talk about: the design, the budget, and the contract. So we'll start with the design, which is fundamentally hasn't changed a ton since you last reviewed it. Should be on screen now. And Kale and Kim can maybe walk you through, as well as Steve, of course, who's been a central part of that leadership team. They can sort of talk through any changes that made to the design, but this, in talking to Kale, is the most accurate version thereof.
Yeah, so this is the current design. Like Nate had mentioned, it hasn't changed since the last time we showed it to you. The trees are still the green dots inside. Those are the trees, and we're planning on having those within the playground. The one thing that isn't shown on this, due to the fact that they're not doing it, it would be a concrete pad by the picnic tables. We're still determining how big that's going to be. We're talking with different organizations if they could do an in-kind donation for that. But the green is PIP, poured in place. Again, that's represented in this. However, if fundraising dollars don't come in, that would be probably the first one that we would slash and just make it all wood chips. But again, we would like to have it due to make it more all-inclusive playground. Again, we have the zip line, the rope climber, the gray object up on top is kind of like a all-inclusive merry-go-round. Sets a swing. So again, nothing really has changed. And based on fundraising dollars that have been coming in pretty good, and I know Kim's going to talk about that tonight, I feel like we're in a good position. But until we have a more of a final walkthrough with Play by Design, we won't know for sure if there needs to be any changes to the playground. I just sent the survey to them, so they're working off that with this and the what do they call it, the stakeout design, where they can post, where they put the posts. So if they have any concerns, they'll come back to us. But as of right now, this is the design that we are looking to go with.
Maybe you said this, but how about the fence? Did you mention fence?
I did not mention the fence. Again, this is the fence that they put in there. We're recommending working through a local business here in Viroqua to do some sort of fence. We haven't decided on that yet. We're hoping for like a wrought iron steel black fence. But that's what we're hoping for.
I'm sorry, I failed to mention Todd's also a part of that committee as well, the leadership committee. I didn't mean to leave you out, Todd. But yes, excellent overview, Kale. Here's another angle of it. Is there any questions or concerns? Again, we've sort of reviewed this design once already, I believe at Park and Rec. I believe we gave an update here some time ago, but unfortunately the months are starting to become a little foggy in the past just with how much we've been doing. So any concerns regarding the current design? I think the public overall has responded very positively to this version of it. And this has sort of been the design for what, Steve, 3 months now? 2 months? No. Okay. So with that, Kale did mention the budget. Let's talk about that next. This is what's on screen here. And This is what we refer to as the global budget. So the contract with Play by Designs, which we'll review here shortly, is one component of it. The total project cost, as far as we've gone through and as we forecast, is just a hair under $780,000. Play by Design's portion of it, if we go with the volunteer model, will be a little over 667,000 of that. So it certainly is the lion's share, but there's other elements in there. There's a contingency amount over there that is just like a general contingency item for the project. There's the ancillary items, as Cale talked about, the concrete pad for the tables, and allowance for doing demolition and the site prep. What's hard about this is all we have budgeted, and so certainly I think you'd get the understanding that we can't ask somebody to come in and demo and prep the site for $5,000 without asking them to do the majority of it as a donation. So that's part of what the leadership team is working on, is trying to beg, borrow, steal, ask nicely as many favors as they can from private businesses, as well as possibly working with the county. Certainly a good amount of the site prep will be done by our very own Public Works Department. And so Sarah and Wade have been very generous with their time, but there's only so much that they can do as well. And so Cale is working on trying to, which I owe you an email response to, but is trying to see if the community members are interested in coming and taking pieces of the playground with them. We're hoping that this will, one, be a good public relations item by, if people really are attached to the playground, by all means, come and take some of it. And as long as they properly and safely remove it, it's a benefit to us, because then we don't have to pay to do it or otherwise use our resources. But that is something we're working on, and it may have to change if we're not able to achieve the help that we're hoping for free. The Dragon mural, as part of the playground donation effort, will pay for itself through all the donations we're getting. We're hoping to add a secondary zip line, possibly from another company. I don't know where quite we've landed on that, but we do have, basically consider that a line item for additional play features if we can afford them. You'll see the allowance for fences and gates. Again, is there an opportunity we get a sweetheart deal on that? Maybe, but right now we do have it budgeted for. And then unfortunately, we have the sunk costs of what we paid for to Leathers. Again, when I look at projects, I do try to make sure it is all the costs, even the ones that we don't necessarily like. And then here you can see the volunteer credit. It was listed in the original one as $75,000, but it's offset by the fact that there are additional work that Play by Designs would have to do in order to do that model. So they'd have to fly in 12 weeks in advance to be on the ground, meet with the volunteer committee, have like basically a prep planning session. And so they sort of build their time, travel expenses, everything else into that cost. So that's a $3,000 off of the $75,000 savings. And then so on and so forth. The rest of it is really Play by Design. So we tried to capture as much as possible, which brings us to that total budget item. You'll note that all the numbers by Play by Design do reflect what was in a proposal that they sent to us, which we'll look at, which is again that 667 to 111. That's the number we're going to be talking about and asking for possible approval tonight. I'm going to pause because I know I just rattled through a whole bunch of stuff. Does anybody want me to go back and me or Cale to go back and reiterate anything? Of course, Kim and anybody on the leadership team, if you have anything.
You probably said this, but what is PBD? TBD?
That's a good question.
Yeah, there's PBD.
Yeah.
By design, TBD, be determined. Peterson is doing the Dragon mural.
Yeah.
That's somebody around here named Peterson.
Sarah.
Sarah Peterson.
So she did she daycare.
I know you. Oh, okay. I know you.
So
And
yeah.
all the yeses are for, I'm sorry, I don't know
No,
what
it's
the
okay.
column heading was.
Yeah, yes, it just means that I've selected them. It gives us an opportunity to say, no, let's leave that all out of the project and therefore out of the budget. But at this point, we're saying yes to everything that's on this menu.
I have a question about let's see here, the surfacing supply. Is that Play by Design supplying the engineered wood fiber as opposed to us finding a local
Yes,
company?
correct.
All right, and
Yep.
then,
We could reach out to Wisconsin Burke
okay,
and see if, well,
we can,
essentially Lee Recreation had a different quote in there, so we still could reach out to them, and we had talks with CNC because they can get certified engineer wood chips.
all right,
So he's looking into it too to see if he could help us with that as
'Cause-
well. But that quote is from Play by Design.
right.
And
And if I
that's
remember,
expensive.
right, because they have to ship it.
Yep.
So that's one area we might be able to.
Right.
Correct.
And again, this is perfectly to Steve's point, this is where Kale and Kim and Angie and Todd, Jacob Conis are all trying to work their magic and asking for as many favors as possible to kind of bring this project under budget. People have the opportunity to either donate monetarily to the project or provide in-kind donations. And so that would be an area where somebody could provide an in-kind donation, and we would just acknowledge that in the same way as if they gave a monetary donation, right? Good questions, Cindy.
3% of 664,000, Play by Design would recommend $10.
I think that's say 10%.
Oh, Tim, okay.
Remember if that was 10,000?
Maybe it was 10,000.
It was 10,000.
Either, yeah, sorry. I'm gonna get rid of that, Cindy, because we did have a meeting with Play by Design to talk about like what is an appropriate contingency to walk into that. And in that conversation, they're like, yeah, $20,000 contingency for the project is appropriate. Of course, it'd always be nice to have for more, but they're like, I see no reason why it wouldn't be unwise to have a $20,000 contingency. So that is usually when we walk into projects, construction projects, depending on the type of project, we like to have some sort of contingency. 3% seems to be appropriate for this one. Anything else? Kim, anything I missed in there? Okay.
Just in case, the total, let's see, the $779,011, is that if they build? Or
No.
does that not even include like a number if they would build the whole thing?
Correct. This is only this includes the volunteer credit.
Okay.
So you can see that here where the volunteer credit is a negative, it's basically a deduct, and all that together is the 779. So we're already trying to take the best price and then on top of it, leverage a bunch of other resources to get that total number down. So this budget will change as the next couple months unfold and we see what can just be taken off, what can be reduced, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. So let's talk about the revenues. Right now, and let's focus on actuals. So right now, through our major donor, we have $120,000 in the bank. That's been in place for some years now. TID6 per the last council meeting confirmed an allocation of $375,000 to the project. Donations, and I'm just going to get rid of needed because makes things just a little confusing. We have $133,000 either in the bank, and this is a combination of businesses, private individuals. Vernon County gave $10,000. We got money from the Vernon Women's Alliance. We got money from the Viroqua Area Foundation. So it's sort of like a smorgasbord of things. And if I'm leaving anybody out, I apologize to you. We'll make sure we get you fully acknowledged later. But this is a number of entities, which brings our current state to $628,000. Angie Lawrence, I should say, had noted that there was some additional funds. I was not able to figure out what that new number was, but the best I can tell is my most conservative estimate, we're about $150,000 short at this period in time.
We're actually probably only probably 110,000 short. She actually had $35,000
received today
Oh, okay.
and some other monies that came in yesterday. So we're probably down to 110, but we don't have all that. She was working on all that, but she got $35,000 today. So we're moving along at a pretty good clip, I think, because she thinks we're down to about 110 that we need. And it might even be a little less depending on if we can get the wood chips, some of the concrete donated, which we're working on all those things too, because that would cut the overall cost of what needs to be raised.
Yeah. So the best way to say based on Kim's knowledge is we're right around, I would say 110 is probably the best we can state that we're at right now. But that does, of course, leave a gap. If we're not able to fundraise, there are items on there that we can just cut. And the two items I think Kale just noted that we could cut if it wasn't there was the fences and the gates at $41,000 plus the engineered port in place surface, which is another 44. So you're talking roughly, is that 95, 85?
And the zip line.
Plus the additional zip
The
line.
additional zip line for 15, so that's 100 even. That's your 100,000 right now. So like we are at a point right now where we have enough pledged whereby if that's all that came in through the end of this, we could make enough cuts to meet budget. We don't want to make those cuts because the community was very, I think, vocal about the fence in particular. They're also vocal about maybe wanting a second zip line and wanting more port in place service to make it more ADA accessible. I think we as a community want it to be a nice balance of having more ADA accessibility. It is important to note that the engineered wood fiber, aka the special wood chips, are still ADA accessible. So it's not like that section of the playground folks can't use. It's just that it's easier with the port in place. If I'm saying that right, Kale.
Correct.
Now, would that be something that, in case we had to cut it, would that be something that could be added later? I mean, I'm sure it's not
can be, it
ideal.
might
I'm
be a
sure you
little,
can.
it might be a
It's
little
not
more
ideal.
costly to
Oh,
add it
Yeah,
later,
yeah,
but it
But it's
can be
doable.
added.
okay.
That's
That's
for
good to
sure.
know, yeah.
And our hope is we still have time and
Yeah.
other fundraising efforts we
Right.
plan to start in
Okay.
later in January.
And you're specifically talking about the port in place. The fence and gate without a doubt can be added later, right? What about the secondary zip line? We wanted to add a secondary piece of equipment later, that's sort of a standalone.
If we went with the current one, we would have to get the same one and then it would take up more real estate of the park. This one would be like a double wood one built as one. So,
Yeah, it's just slightly bigger footprint than the single zip that this company provides. Yeah, so the fall zone, essentially you'd have to expand the playground to put a second of this type. Yeah. Or remove it and then replace it with the other one, but
true.
This is Emma. I had two questions. The first question, which was about fundraising, and has it been primarily through like individual contacts, or is the Iroquois Area Foundation, has that been effective in terms of fundraising? I'm just curious at this point.
I'm not sure I heard it all, but what we have done so far is we have a combination of businesses and individuals that people have contacted, and we're still working on a campaign to go out to the public more on social media, and that'll come later in January. Now is not the time to do that with Christmas and holiday and everything. So the combination of monies have come from businesses and from individuals who have been contacted, and there are still more people to contact, but we're just kind of not doing as much contact right now as waiting to see what we get from the other people, just because of the time of the year that we're at for the holidays and stuff.
I think it's been a great job in terms of there'll be a better ask for the community when so much has already been fundraised and budgeted. So it's that final push. And then my other question, I ran into Emlyn on Friday from Tree Loving Care, and he was talking about just protecting the root system of the trees during construction. And has he been able to be more involved in the tree preservation part of it?
Yeah, we had a discussion on last Friday as well, so I'm in contact with him and we're talking about a plan going forward, so we'll keep those discussions going as we get closer.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so and just one more thing on the fundraising side to reiterate what Kim said is Angie Lawrence has been very adamant about the best strategy when approaching this is you don't do the grassroots fundraising first, you do it last when you're nearly there, right? And so that's why if anybody has been wondering, it's like, hey, why haven't you reached out to the community yet? It's like it's all very strategic. Like you start with your major donors, your direct contacts, you try to get most of the way there, and then you open it up. So we have a member of the leadership committee, Emily, who's been engaged in that and is just trying to roll it out at the right time, as Kim sort of noted. So I think the fundraising effort is really fairly well organized. So any concerns about the budget and where it stands right now? Any apprehension? Okay. I mean, me personally, as the budget guy, of course, it's not where I would want it to be, but there are enough levers that we can pull where we don't put ourselves in a spot where we've committed to a project and we absolutely have to come back to the city and say, I need another $100,000. Now, people may ask you to do that, right? If fundraising dries up and somebody's like, yeah, but we really want that fence. Can we have another $45,000, please? But you have the option to say no, right? And that's part of what Kale and I never want to put you in a position where your backs are up against the wall and you have no options but to spend money, even though you didn't really want to spend more of it. And I think where we're at right now, avoids the potential for that situation. Of course, some extenuating circumstances can come up. You know, some of the money is pledged and not in hand yet. But, you know, we walked a similar thing with the Welcome Center, right? And from what we've heard from Angie is this community is very good about meeting their pledges, so long as it's very clear what we're doing here. And so, but it is a risk, and so I do bring it up. Okay. Let's go on to the last part, which is the contract, if that's okay with everybody. So the first element I'll show you is the playground. Sorry, this over here is the proposal we received from Play by Design. And really what it does is it outlines the costs. It's a pretty basic proposal. And it just simply outlines the cost of what everything will be. And that total number, if you remember, is that $667,211. That's the contract with Leathers about what we're in for. I'm sorry. I knew I was going to do it too. I absolutely knew I was going to say Leathers. I'm sorry. And as you can see there, the optional volunteer credit has been corrected to show it as 72,000. And that is just their portion of the budget. After that, when we spoke, and they still don't have the second part that goes, oh, they do. It's just on a separate page. Then they had submitted something that was all sort of these exclusions. Let's see if I can find that. And that is, oh, that's not here either. That would be, sorry, too many things open. So this was part of what they submitted to us, was sort of what I'll refer to as expectations and exclusions. And it's a little interesting because the expectations are all what the city of Viroqua's expectations are, and the exclusions are all what Play by Design won't include as part of their work. Which sure you can imagine when it's like that, George Hopkins had some issues with it along with Kayla and I about like, okay, you're telling us all what we have to do and what you won't do. What about the reverse of that? And so we'll start here though, is by the Eckhart Playground Committee and the city as a whole is responsible for these things, is making sure the site conditions have been met so that when they show up on site, it's graded appropriately and the stakes are in the ground and drainage is set up, et cetera. That we're responsible when the materials show up to build the thing, that we're offloading them, we're securing them, we are storing them for as long as they need to be stored, which we've had conversations on. And that site security, which just simply means we need to make sure that people can't easily walk onto or off the site because they need to control the people who are in there if we're using power tools and moving materials. In addition, we just talked about the unloading of equipment and trucks and installing the engineered wood fiber. They're, per the budget we just showed, providing it, they're supplying it, but they're not going to lay it. We are. Which of course, because it's a volunteer model, we would expect to do. So that's not overly unexpected. And then in addition, they talked about the volunteers, and George originally this wasn't in here, but George wanted more understanding of what the expectations on volunteers were, because it started off as we need 40 plus volunteers aged 21 plus for 6 days. And I asked the questions like, well, how long are those days? And how many shifts are there? Can you give us more detail on that? And as George really started pushing on of like, okay, well, what if we only get 38 per day? Is there a penalty, right? Just asking some of those questions. And as you know, part of the reason we're asking all these questions is because we got into a conversation with Leathers. This time I meant to say Leathers, whereby we didn't have a really strong contract and that led to conflict and a drawn out sort of negotiation to just part ways. And we're really trying not to make that mistake this time around. And I think Play by Design understands that. We're not trying to be overly stickler or mistrusting, but we do want to make sure if things don't go right, we have a contract to look back to and said, this is how we agreed we would deal with that. So that's just an overall of why we're doing this. So part of what a concern is right now is this new language that's highlighted in this teal color says that they need 40 adult build volunteers per shift at 3 4-hour shifts per day, which, right? 3 4-hour shifts per day.
Yes, that is one version. They also said that we could do possibly like 2 6-hour shifts per day.
Sure.
So,
Which this,
right. But because the way this one's set up, it'd be like an 8 to 11:30-ish in the morning, and then, is that right? 8 to noon,
Yeah.
and then 12:30 to like 4 or like 5 or something like that, and then you come back at like 6 to whenever. He said the third shift was usually the hardest to fill, is like post-work hours and after school lets out, that sort of thing. So he was like, well, we have done where we do longer shifts, so do 6-hour shifts,
you
which
essentially avoid the transition gap.
right, exactly.
The problem is not necessarily that first 3 4-hour shifts, because we've sort of understood that as the expectation as we went for the last few months. It's that next one where it says we need 5 skilled crew leaders to work alongside the Play by Design crew for the entirety of the 6 build days for all 3 4-hour shifts. And we asked the question today, we're like, so does that mean that we need 5 people to commit to 6 straight 12-hour days? And they're like, yes. I said, well, that seems like it's a tall ask. I don't even know if that's necessarily safe to ask somebody to do that many days in a row at 12-hour shift working outside, especially not knowing what the weather will be. I'm not saying
at a volunteer rate. It was yeah.
Okay.
12 hours.
So
Yeah.
what is their meaning of skilled? Is it like a equipment operator or a skilled carpenter,
That's a good
or
question.
what's their
It sounds
expectation
like
of skill
simply
is what
I
I'm
think
wondering.
their idea of skilled is someone that can understand the building operation and accurately and I guess manage their because I think each person's going to have their group, and then you have to effectively manage your own group. They're not going to be in the management of each individual group. They want the volunteers to take care of that. So how skilled? Basically, yeah.
I think there is like whenever we talked about skilled on this, we always talked about like people who have skills in in general trades, right? Like people who know how to operate, you know, tools, power tools correctly. Like you would not want to put me out there while I run a couple power tools. Like I wouldn't call myself skilled labor at all, right? So I'm not the guy out there, but again, if you're fairly comfortable with that and you feel like you can take on a group of people, I think Play by Design is ultimately responsible for overseeing those 5 skilled leaders. It's just about more having ongoing direct contact with your group. So they would go to AJ and they said, all right, AJ, I got this group. You take over there. If AJ has questions, then he goes talk to Play by Designs, right? Like general structure like that.
Yeah, there's, I guess the benefit of having 5 leader individuals is that they don't have to retrain how to be the leader every day, right? So then it effectively moves time faster in their eyes.
My frustration with it is it's, as far as I know, never been discussed previously. Now that, and it was in, it like, that was it's in there because we asked for more definition. And so if we would have signed this contract and then it came up later, we would have felt like, well, wait a minute, when did this ever come up? And so it's good we're talking about it now. And I think Play by Design has always approached this as like, hey, we're a team, we're going to go in this together, and that's all hunky-dory until things go wrong and we're at each other's throats about something, and that's when we need contracts. So we are in negotiation with them currently, and we don't have a remedy for it in this day and age. What we'd ask for is if you do feel comfortable with the contract, you leave it up to myself and George to say like, okay, we can agree to that. And of course that is based on input from Steve and Kale and Todd about whether or not we feel that's feasible. And if we want to say like, hey, we'll shoot for that, but we're not going to, maybe we don't guarantee it. And you need to be okay with that. And we don't want to see a price increase if we have people who want to split it. Like, can we get you 10 people and they each take 6 hours a day? Is that more reasonable? Or can we get you 3 people who are willing to be there for 12 hours a day for 6 days and a couple people who need a split shifts? Like, there just needs to be flexibility is all I'm asking, because even if AJ were, and I keep calling on you because you raised your hand, if AJ were to commit now, he may find himself in a situation where like, sorry, I got to go to Barbados all of a sudden, and now he can't be there.
I think it'd be better to have like some more clear definition of what skilled means, right? And, you know, because somebody may not know, like I'm looking at this, I know that I'm not that person, but I wouldn't really know who to ask because I wouldn't know what the ask was. And the other thought I had was with the food for volunteers. So we're asking people to make food for 40 people. Is that per meal?
Kim, food, do we already have the Eagles on top of that?
Yeah, the Eagles Auxiliary said they would take care of whatever we needed for food. They would get donations or they would make, and they said that would totally fit into what they are able to do. So that is, they will do that.
Awesome.
You say,
Eagles Auxiliary.
oh, the Eagles are doing.
Eagles Auxiliary, those ladies. will do
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
food.
I
The Lions didn't really want to do the food. The Eagles Auxiliary has said, we will do all of that and we can do that. Just let us know when it gets closer to time or when we need to get moving.
They're doing it for free?
Say it again.
They're doing it for free?
Yeah, they're doing it as part of their
Contribution?
volunteer thing. They would get donations and whatever from businesses and they would volunteer and do that. Yes.
Okay. Other than that, let's go down. I don't think there were really a lot of other concerns on this. This was just expectations and things like that. Some of the exclusions George went with. A lot of these are things that you can tell that over the years that people have asked them about. And they maybe got burned on, so they just keep adding to the list of things that they're not going to do. A good chunk of this, half or more of it, we've already covered above as like, this is our responsibility. A couple things where Kale is still looking into, and you can speak to this, of course, if you want, is things like setting up builder's risk insurance, which is something we typically have in place for major construction projects that has this much money invested into it. Waiver of subrogation is something that George just has no idea how that relates to this project. So he's still working with their attorney on what exactly, why that's in there and to what end. And then I think you're also looking into one other thing.
Permits, I gotta talk to Chad on that. Permits and licensing and drainage, need to talk with Sarah on that more when we site prep that. I think those were the three that I was looking into.
But at the very least, it's very understood, like those are in our wheelhouse. And if we're comfortable with doing it, George is just wanting to make sure like everything in here is well understood before we sign documents. So that's their portion of it. The last piece I'll show to you is what George felt was necessary. And again, he met with Kale and I, and we completely agree with him. And we really appreciate George for stepping up and doing this because frankly, this was last minute. We were a little frustrated that we got the first version of the contract, last week?
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, it was like right before Thanksgiving. And so, and we weren't able to start working on it until right after Thanksgiving. So a lot of this has been on short notice, and George has done a good job about being responsive to it. So thank you to him. But there's just a lot of whereases, which is like, hey, what are we trying to do? Here's the scope of services. And then a lot of what he has in there is expectations on Play by Design, right? Saying like, you're going to show a standard of care. You're going to warranty the items. If there's a problem with how you told us to install something, you're going to come back and correct it at no additional fee to us. Here's the compensation we talked about. So he references that document we just looked at as Exhibit A. If they need to have insurance, if they're negligent in their responsibilities here, then it's on them. They have to make sure that the work that they do conforms to certain standards. They have to make sure that they're doing things safely, right? So just like all these things we expect out of contractors, and especially in this situation where part of the reason we're going with them is to guide us properly. And so we need these assurances that they are doing that they're doing things safely, it's good workmanship, they're using best practices, and everybody's safe while we're doing it. And then a lot of things after that are just sort of standard boilerplate public contracts, like this is subject to open records request, and how do we terminate the agreement, the fact that they're independent contractors, the indemnification clauses, expectations on insurances. And then these last few items are about stuff you'll see in most every contract we do: waivers, severability, assignment, right? They can't just say, hey, instead of working with us, you're now working with this other group we assigned you to. It's like, no, we signed a contract with you, right? So that's just what some of that stuff means, which we have in most all of our contracts. The governing law, we don't want to get pulled into a court in New York if this doesn't go well. So we make sure that the venue is Wisconsin, Vernon County. Non-discrimination items. I mean, again, this is all stuff in George and his world does just to help cover us. And I don't see any issue with it. The attorney for Play by Designs had 2 items that we're still discussing, but I would consider it somewhat clarification at this point. They don't have a problem with it. And one of them is they're saying like, okay, well, if you're requiring safety standards, then you have to provide safety equipment. And to that I said, is the safety equipment required already on the equipment list? Have you seen this, Todd? Do they have like, is there any requirements or hard hats or high vis? No.
I think it's safety glasses and ear protection.
Safety glasses and ear protection. So again, we already know that we're responsible for providing some of that stuff. We just want to make sure like we know what it is. And so it's just stuff like that we're just kind of sorting out. I would call it details at this point. I don't think there's a major disagreement. It's just trying to make sure this all gets wrapped up. And then the other one was what building codes do you want us to adhere to? Right, because George says, like, if you're gonna if you're gonna help us create something, you got to warranty that the stuff you're building is safe and that it's not gonna collapse and that it follows any codes related to playgrounds. And he's like, well, what codes do you want us to follow? And really what I think he means by that is there are local codes that also plays into that. And that's where Kale and Chad need to connect on that a little bit more. So there's a few items that they brought up like that, but they don't appear from the emails to be against George's contract. So with that, I know it's a heck of a lot. But we are at the point now where we're posing to the council, can we move forward with the execution of a contract within the next 3 or 4 days? And part of the consideration of doing that is we're at the end of the year, and if we don't start committing, we're going to be subject to annual inflation on the materials. So we're going to see probably a 3% bump in the composite wood products, as well as the stuff from Burke that's like your slides and your monkey bars and other things like that. So I would never put you in a position where you should sign a contract of this magnitude if you truly feel uncomfortable, but I do want you to also be aware that there is a price involved here as well.
Can I ask a question? Does this lock us into any particular build date timeframe?
I was gonna say,
Build date.
You don't worry about it.
Yeah, you got to get out there and start plowing. Yeah. He asked about the build date. Do you want to take this one?
Yeah, so currently we are still considering a May build date, as you saw on the contract. We have had talks with them about unforeseen issues, the weather and that, if we could move it back. And it sounds like they are okay with that. We're just need to communicate that based on where we're at. I think, in my opinion, we would still like to go May. However, I've talked with Sarah, and again, due to the weather, we have some concerns that we'll get in there and be able to grade it and tear down everything in time for May, because it's right around the corner. We still feel like we can do it. However, it puts a tight timeline on us. Looking at my schedule, the spring is a lot busier than the fall for me, with baseball games and softball games and getting the parks up and ready. Training staff and not having staff at that time. So if it would fall on volunteers or other departments, not other departments, I should say, other community members, I would feel more comfortable with that. So it is a hard one to, like, I want to get it going. I want to see it complete, but to be honest, after thinking of everything, my thought would be the fall, but I know there's a lot of information out there. We've put it out there to the community that we want to do it in the spring. So I still think we could push for that, knowing that we might have to move it back to October.
And then does the site have to be prepped at that 12-week prior meeting, or is it like when does the site need to be prepped by?
Would have to get confirmation on that. I know we put in the clause that we have to show documentation that it's ready to go before they mobilize.
Okay.
But I don't know when that is.
and I would assume that they have all right, we can talk May, but we would need to know by beginning of March that it isn't gonna be May or some time frame like that.
That was what was really interesting about the conversations, is that our concern was that we were going to be penalized. Like, if we shoot for May, we give it our best, but weather doesn't cooperate, maybe we don't have the volunteers locked up, maybe we identify it's just not a good time. Because there was some good conversation of Park and Rec committee about, like, May versus October, right? And so there may be reasons we just can't achieve that. And I said to Lee in a phone or a virtual meeting, I said, what happened? He's like, this is a partnership. If you give it your best and you can't make May, we can look at other dates without penalty. Okay. But we should probably have that reflected in the contract that that option is available to us. And I think what would be even more helpful is if this group could decide one way or another, do we shoot for May or do we shoot for October from the get-go? Because as Cale said, that like upon further consideration, he has concerns about even if we can make May happen, is it the best time for him to be able to really focus on the project? And again, Sarah's concerns and Wade's concerns from the get-go when we met about this back in October, was it? November, early November, was that we wanted to shoot for October, but I know a lot of members of the playground committee really want to get going and have concerns about the overall safety of the playground, which I get and I don't disagree with, but ultimately it's the council's call for this contract. What date you want to shoot for?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say something I brought up at Park and Rec was that May is just a busy month for school kids, not even taking into consideration how busy a time it is for Kale. And I just wanted us to take that into consideration too.
My worry would be that with that 12-week time frame, I mean, that's the end of February, and that's literally 2 months away. And there's a lot that would have to be in place for that pre-construction meeting to happen in time for May.
Well, the other thing I mentioned, I asked Kim, the last one they did in October, she believes. It was the fall, so another consideration. But I was just curious, the warranty on the equipment itself, what is that? How long is it supposed to last?
We have access to it. Again, I'd have to review it again, but there's different warranties, like Burke has a warranty on all the slides. I think that was a 15-year warranty on all that. The port in place has a warranty. And then the plastic wood has a warranty, but I would have to go back and look at all the warranties and
They
check
all seem
everything.
appropriate.
Yes, at that time. It's been a while since I reviewed it, but
At our meeting, the Lions guy, that's the representing them, did not see a problem with volunteers in May and felt that they could, and they've talked about it, that they would have the necessary volunteers in May. So I just thought I'd throw that in there. He was fine with that and felt very confident about that.
And I would think that this community is motivated and ready for it to happen soon, but being in construction, I know that the things that are not in our control are the things that will deter a spring movement on it.
Yeah, and I guess I should probably, the reason why there's no like middle of summer option is because those are the, basically the volunteer community builds are done, you know, up until May, whenever they can, wherever they can, because they do nationwide. Then it's also September, as long as they can, wherever they can. Summer is when they build playgrounds themselves. So like when they actually go to the community and build the entire playground. Mainly I guess they've run into trouble in the past where, you know, they go to a community, they say there's going to be volunteers, but people are on vacation or sporting events or what have you. So they found it harder to do the community model during those months. Just in case, you know, anybody's listening and is wondering why that's not an option. They don't offer it. And
So
So it seems like the main hesitancy, like there's lots of reasons to do it. So there's like what we want to have happen sooner would be better in a world where there aren't all these unknowns. But for safety, what's the difference between May and October?
So that was my question. I had two questions. One is, I think the dollar amount in there is wrong, but when you go back and look at that, but to that point with safety, like I have concerns with us not doing it until the fall based on the condition of some of the equipment. So if we don't tear it down in the spring, we're either gonna have to get in there and fix some stuff because we have to do that every year, right? Like there's constant issues with that. Are we gonna have to put more money into that to keep it operational till October, or because I would hate to see us go all summer without playground, right? So we either, if it's not safe and we don't want to put any more money into it, we have to not open it, which I think is not a great plan for the community, right? That's full of kids all summer long, right? So like, that's my concern. I personally, if I were building it myself, I'd rather do it in October than May, especially with all the work that needs to be done. I think that's very, very valid. I just worry about the safety aspect of the current structure. What are we going to have to do to make sure it's safe throughout the summer? You know,
Yeah.
I can't really
regards-
the
yeah,
fact that if we're not going to tear it down in the spring and keep it empty till fall, it's probably the best option, but it's not the best for the community. The community wants to have a play structure to play all summer.
Correct. Yeah.
So
In regards to the safety, it's based on after the year, we look at it and see what needs to be done. Some years it's not as bad, but however, we have talked about non-compliant issues of that playground for the last couple of years. So we should essentially address those.
exactly.
Like,
That's my point, right?
yes.
Like you, as as an entity, you can't unsee some things.
Yes.
So you either have to fix them or you're negligent if somebody gets hurt because of them, right? So we don't want to put ourselves in that position. So I don't know. I'd love to see it get done in the spring because I think that's just the best of both worlds, right? But it's unlikely that we'll be able to do it in May, and I understand for all the reasons why. Like I'd love for that to be what we direct, but I don't think it's fair to you and it's not fair to Sarah and the staff that has to deal with that in April when it's mud and gross and whatever. But I just want to be aware of like there might be some real issues with not doing it until October in terms of either financial investment or having to close it early or having to take out aspect. I don't know what that looks like.
Correct. Yep.
I agree with you totally. It's no sense to put money in a dead horse, right?
Right.
You're gonna take it out, but weather has a lot to do with this too. Nobody ever dreamt we're gonna probably just kind of snow with this early, so
Right.
how long is it gonna last? And
If it starts early, it should end early.
you're right. I hope so. I hope so.
Think you're gonna have to get to figure out when the prep time, if they have to for that pre-construction, because if it's in October and you gotta go back 12 weeks, now you're taking it out in the summer. Either way.
Right. I would assume that can't be the case because I mean, they know we can't take it out in February. Like they know that where we're at. They know we can't have that site ready in February. So I can't imagine that 12-week time, but you're right. But I would be shocked if they're like, no, it's gotta be ready in February. And then we're like, well, then the decision's made, right? We can't do it till October. And then we have 12 weeks of a dirt slab in the middle of the summer, which I think is a really undesirable situation.
I guess I just would hate to be rushed into, the tear down and the site prep and make sure everything is to grade and the way it has to be. I think you'd really be pushing it in May. And as far as the work that would maybe need to be done to it, I mean, is it something that can be closed? I know I hate to say that, but could the park be closed for the playground part of it be closed for a portion of the summer and start the disassembly if people want to start taking some of the stuff out of there for their own personal use or whatever, they could start on that in May or June, or it would just give a lot more time to get everything prepped. And anytime you rush into something, it seems like there's going to be some issues. And I think that's what's going to happen is we'd run into some kind of snags. We don't know, or maybe how the all them posts are they all concrete bases? Are they gonna have to be dug out or?
You would know better than
I was
He
there, but I
there.
don't recall. I don't think they are. I think they were just, they're
Yeah.
big, they're like telephone poles that were set in and
Okay,
camped in,
yeah.
but I could be wrong.
Mhm.
But I think, there's a risk if you say you commit to the May build, you tear the thing down in April and now all of a sudden you're pushed back, you're without a play structure until October anyway.
Yeah.
So if you plan for it,
Right.
I
That's-
agree with everything.
I know I
that
hate
they've done.
to mention closing the playground, but I just think it's gonna be a good portion of the summer anyway that it would be
Right.
closed down. So
Right.
We have how many parks?
I would be in favor of that.
You're right.
I was gonna say that
How many
too.
do we have? I mean,
We've talked about that if we do close it during
Right.
the summer, which I don't think we would like to see it, but we do have school parks and other community playgrounds that we would like to push people to too.
Yeah.
What is it? How many are there?
Playgrounds, probably 4 for the city and then the play.
Well, how many
right.
parks then?
Oh, yeah, parks, we have 13, but not all parks have playgrounds. So I think we
Still,
only
there
have
we-
4 or 5
There are
playgrounds.
alternatives.
I think that, yeah. for
It's
the
worth
end-
the wait for something really good.
I agree.
Right,
100%.
exactly. That's what I was getting at too. I
Yeah.
think it would be worth the wait and
Mhm.
to have a playground closed for a few months. Like I say, it's gonna be closed for a few months anyways,
No
probably.
matter what.
They
So
can do
that's
other
my,
things. They can ride
Yeah,
their bike, they
yeah.
can walk, they can, they're.
You,
I think that's what we should shoot for, or something like that.
baseball.
For the parts that are in non-compliance or need repair, like the chain ladder broke while you guys were in it, can we take aspects out of the park, make it like walled off or blocked off to keep said park intact? Maybe not have that option that's in need of repair?
We can remove items, but we can't shut them off, like block them off. That would be,
I mean, if there was the top of that ladder chain is 5 feet,
No, this is it's
this one's just
the
like the
wa-
walking
there's like
string.
the one that's on the low to the ground with the 2 chains on the side where you can,
okay.
that was what fell apart when we were there. But
Parts though can still be blocked off because you can essentially screw in wood pieces that would block it from being, like if you took the piece out, you weren't able to access it because there's now, whether it's plywood, 2x4s or whatever, making a wall.
no, I think once you start doing that, then you're better off just
Yeah.
Yeah.
getting rid of
What
it.
I'm saying is like an option if we had to keep it there till June.
No, I know what you're saying. I'm just saying like essentially making, so it was never designed to have that. You know what I mean? So
Right.
like if you start adding that stuff in, then it makes it more maybe dangerous than it should be. So then at that point, it should just be shut down.
I think long range, here's what I've gathered from being in multiple meetings of it. The park will have, the playground will have to be shut down months ahead of when we rebuild it. There is no avoiding the fact that likely 2 to 3 months, it's gonna have to be gone. And there is no way a city of our size can achieve all the things we want for this playground. Build it as soon as possible, avoid the busy times of the year. Do it on the cheap, right? Like that's probably the biggest factor you guys need to consider about this start date is we are trying to be at the mercy of people giving us stuff for free. And when you're asking for stuff for free, you're kind of on their timeline. And so the bigger window we can give to some of these contractors to give us free stuff, the better off we are. And so like for what we talked about Park and Rec, the last thing I'll say is giving authority over when to close the park to the Eckhart Playground Committee so that based on all these conversations that are constantly be happening that are going to impact when we should close the playground, they can just make the decision then. And I would continue to allow them that empowerment of you make the call. We would prefer you not to do it any sooner than what we say mid-January. But after that, Eckhart Steering Committee, make the call of closing the park playground when you need to.
Yeah. That would allow extra time for fundraising also. I like the idea of closing the park, not opening it in the spring, and people can come in at their leisure kind of and remove what they want to, and I think it would be a better job overall.
Yeah, we have the timeline set for May if everything goes as planned. It's just there are unknowns
Oh,
that we don't
absolutely.
know about.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
I think everybody that we've talked to, like, we would like to do it in May. There's just don't know what's going to happen.
So are you looking for direction tonight? Like you want us to decide if we're gonna do it in May or October and give that
Well,
direction, or are you
that was
wanting
my
it to?
whole point is like, if you feel that there's no reason we should shoot for May, make it an October date and just set to it. Now's your time to do it. If you're okay with sort of what got pushed up to from Park and Rec, where you say shoot for May. If it doesn't work, make sure it's in the contract. You get penalized for it, and then we do an October build. But try to communicate that to Play by Design as soon as possible so we can get to that October date.
Does that work for you, Kale?
Yeah, like I said, I think that's what we want. Unfortunately, I was looking at the schedule. For me, it's going to be a lot harder in the spring for me and Dustin.
Right.
So if the Lions and the Volunteers really step up and maybe me and Dustin don't have to be there as much,
Mhm.
it would still work. But if me and Dustin need to be there 7 days a week, 12 hours a day, then it's going to be harder for us. Yeah.
Right. And I think I'll speak for the group and anybody can disagree with me, I think, but I think we want to make sure we put this in a position where it works well for you and Dustin, right? Like we don't want to put you in a position because it can be all well and good until the go date and all of a sudden it's not good. And now you're there 7 days a week in the middle of your busy season and we put you there.
Yep.
Like I think we should give you October and just my only ask would be that the committee that's deciding when to close the park, decide to close it before it incurs any additional expenses for maintenance and repair. Which might be the hard thing.
Mhm.
The other thing that was undecided in Parks and Rec, and maybe you've addressed this, but their interest was maybe building some of these entities during this winter time. Is that an all right and acceptable push to October without any restraint on their cost? I mean, we're good with this pricing if we move to October.
Right. When we spoke with them, the biggest thing that would change for us is we'd have to hold on to things longer.
So they'd still ship them.
Right.
We've still got to handle.
We
it
would
this
lock in,
summer.
we would lock into a cost. There'd be a turnaround time, of course, like when we order something to when they would fab it, ship it, and it would show up on our doorstep. So instead of holding on to something from conceivably March to May, you're holding on it from March to October. And so my understanding is like we're locking in prices now. We're setting up our build date for next year.
Do we have a spot to store that for that duration of time?
We've talked about, I got to talk to Sarah if that would be the case with, if she had any areas. The Park and Rec has a few areas, and then in talking with Jacob at Nelson Agri Center, he's got a shed that he feels we could put a lot of stuff there. But so I would think we would have enough between the city, but
Part of what the question I asked is what kind of volume are we talking
Yeah, I
about?
don't-
And they couldn't answer the question, like how big are your boxes?
Right.
Because I can tell you based on how big your boxes are, but
Right.
and that's what's harder is like we're still constantly fussing on all of these details. And so for that reason, it just constantly makes me think that October's the way to go and let's lock in the prices now and just spend our time prepping that. I know that's not the answer that some people on the committee want. I get that, but I'm always been about like, it's not about want, it's about feasibility.
Well, I think we all want a very nice park done well
Right.
and thoughtfully. And I think giving a little bit of time helps accommodate that. So you'd like a motion to do all the things?
Yes. So what we need at this point, if I'm hearing things correctly, we need a motion to move forward with the contract contingent on George and I finishing the conversations with Play by Design, and then we would reach out to Justin to execute. But this is, for the most part, I think there's enough here that gives you an understanding of what the document is. I think we're in agreement with Play by Design enough. Justin did point out that this item in yellow is incorrect. George used the full project cost and not the one that is just specific to Play by Design. So changing the cost to be accurate and changing the volunteer credit to be accurate. So again, I think Lori has it, was it 677, 211?
Was 667 to 11.
And whatever date you want to put on
We're
the,
looking for a motion to approve the contract with giving you some flexibility to finish it up for that dollar amount and setting the bill date for October.
This is AJ. I will make a motion to forward the contract for Eckhart Park, contingent on George and Nate finishing contract verbiage, updating the correct cost and the volunteer credit, and the bill date for October.
And the amount.
667 to 11 and 72 cents.
72,000.
That one?
Yeah.
That include-
volunteer
that
credit
in-
The
change.
volunteer credit
That
change
include
to
that included
okay,
that.
right. Yeah, you're
Okay.
good. So I think we have a motion, Lori. Do we have a motion? All right. We need a second.
I'll second the motion, but
Okay.
does that
Go ahead.
include anything with the closure of the park? Does that have to be in on this at all or no?
the closure of the park, again,
Well,
my
that's up to the
recommendation was
discretion of the park and rec.
Kim's,
Yeah,
Kim's group, yep.
okay. I second the motion then.
Right. And it's not part of the motion per se, but just
Right.
my request would
Yeah,
be,
yeah.
please don't
Yeah.
keep it open at the cost of
Right.
pouring good money after
Yeah.
bad. So, so we've got a motion, a second. Any other discussion? Do some roll call vote on that one.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Right.
Emma,
Hi.
Yeah, we're getting close. All right.
I
Hold
didn't
on,
hear
we're not
Emma.
done. Emma?
Yeah. I thought you're,
Can you raise your hand?
you see me raise my
Sure.
hand.
Perfect.
That
Uh,
raising your hand means aye, correct?
Oh, I thought you heard me. Okay, sorry.
I can't hear anything. Hold on. Maybe there's,
Can I
maybe,
finish the roll call with Todd Spaeth,
Aye.
Cindy?
Aye.
Tell her to
Now
do
we're
this
good.
if it means you.
All right. We're gonna give just a second here, but I think we're good with Emma's vote there. Thank you, Kale, Kim, Steve, Todd, Nate, and the rest of the committee. Please share that, Kim, when you talk to them about how much we appreciate all the work they've put in here. It's been a long road, but we're there. Congratulations. So, yep. All right. I'm going to move on to item number 11, which is review and approval of pay request number 14 for the fire station.
Alrighty, so this is pay request 14. It was reviewed by Levi from Veerbeckers and myself. I believe this isn't the final payment because of the retainage, is that the right word? There's $12,750 that's going to be retained. There's a few items that are still being dealt with, some HVAC. I won't bore you with the details unless you want to know. But this should pay up everything minus that retainage. Any questions? So this is for the, I'm sorry, this,
Gonna make a motion to pay. unless
Okay.
you need to talk
the only
some-
thing I was gonna add is this is.
Hold
for
on.
this-
We've got a motion.
Oh.
Now we need a second.
Fair
Sorry,
enough.
chief.
I'm
Fair-
That was second.
Go ahead, Chad.
So I was just gonna say, this is the Keller contract, right? So we still have the furniture stuff. I just wanted to make mention of that, like final payment, and I come back to you guys with furniture or whatever, so. Anyways,
You want an amount, Lori?
The amount is $1,014,365.18. Once you take that 12,750 off of that.
Wow. Wow.
I figured it out ahead of time, don't worry.
Very good. Okay, that's pay request number 14 for that amount.
I'm saying that.
Okay, I'm really bad at math. It took me a minute to catch up to what you were saying, but you're right. I'm staring at that thinking that doesn't make any sense at all. All right, sorry. So we've got a motion and a second. We've clarified that. Is there any questions? Is there anything you want to Say, no?
Good.
All right.
Good
Furnish is
chili
coming.
supper.
Was a good chili supper.
All right. Roll call.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew.
Aye.
Todd Kirking.
All right.
Emma,
Aye. Hear me?
If you raised your hand and said aye. I don't know, we lost audio.
Todd Spade.
Aye.
Cindy
Aye.
and Steve.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Chief. All right, item number 12, review and approval of Prairie Farm project.
This is in the packet.
Yeah, right. Bonus. I can just share my screen.
Yeah, go ahead. It's on the packet. Go ahead.
All right, so we have the first pay request from Hanson Farm Property Construction Project. It says, I don't never love how they do this, but this says change order 1, but it's not change order 1, it's the stored materials. So they put all the stored materials, actually, there's some materials that are already installed. I think she said 25% has already been removed from that total. But this is, if you drive by there, this is like a great, I was saying to the Public Works Committee, a great like example of seeing all the kinds of materials we put in there, right? There's a giant 66-inch culvert pipe, concrete pipe. You see the blue pipe out there for the sewer and a ductile iron pipe for the water. But in any case, so that's all those materials. As we go through the project and put them in the ground, they deduct it. So it will be a 0 in the end. So that's why I don't like how they refer to it. The other fraction or other half of that is actually putting in pipe. They worked really hard to get everything done on Chicago Avenue so they could put those crossings and pave everything. So you kind of saw them working out there. There's pretty much been 4 excavators out there for the last couple of weeks as well. But this was from a couple weeks ago, basically mostly the water and the sewer main that they installed up there. We did notice on the original pay request that it had 2 live taps listed. Now I really messed up the screen here. Right where I want to see it. Let's see. There we go. So this is now 1. So that was an edit from before. We don't need to edit this number anymore. The number that's on the total is the actual number. That's really it. It's just them trying to get everything moving up Chicago Avenue was under this pay request. So if you have any questions, let me know. But the current payment due is the $556,520.67. Sorry for whoever's trying to read that. There we go.
Make a motion, oh, no, mine went to pay request number 1, Hanson Farm Project for $556,520.67.
Say JL second.
Andrew.
Aye.
Todd Kirking.
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Do I need to look?
Sorry, I was trying.
Oh, I see she's waving.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and Seth.
Aye.
All right, so this is the final pay request for the salt shed.
That's
Oh,
fine. I got
okay, I was like, how?
It's fine. I'm just trying to clear. I'm
Sorry,
trying to
Emma, I
clear
didn't have my
your mouth.
microphone
Go
on.
ahead. Go ahead.
I'm going to repeat that. My microphone wasn't on. I'm sorry. So
Oh,
folks that
okay.
are online, review and approval of pay request number 4 for the salt shed project.
All right, so as mentioned, this is the final pay request for the salt shed. Essentially, this is release of the retainage, $25,150. And I had mentioned in Public Works that we wanted to do something to open the salt shed, but we decided as a Public Works Department that it was better to wait till the spring so we could really spend some time chatting with everybody. So to be continued, we'll do a true opening after we've used it a little bit.
This is Todd. I move to approve pay request number 4 for the salt shed project for $25,150.
Todd will second it.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
I'm learning. That means me. She's doing it.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth, and Andrew.
Aye.
All right. I have to apologize for everybody between mouthfuls of cookies. It's been kind of difficult to vote tonight. You missed a good one, Emma. Item number 14, review and approval of TRC change order number 5 for equipment rental for old landfill.
Okay, so this one is for TRC at the landfill. Originally, the reason that we see this now is that originally we were intending to pay direct to the contractor that's giving us the rental for the equipment. However, we realized that our rate was much higher than their rate. See, we thought we were going to save on the markup by going with not through TRC because that's their subcontractor environmental testing equipment. But if we did that, we actually would pay more money. So we don't want to pay more money. So this is for rental of equipment for 7 months. And one of the things that we will be doing is trying to negotiate a rent to own because we do know that we're going to need to do this indefinitely. And the estimate that I got before was in that $20,000 range. And so if we can just leverage this into buying the equipment, that would be the best case scenario.
I did not bring this up in public works previously, but the equipment overall is 20 grand and we've paid 13,400 to rent it.
Right. Because it's $2,000 a month.
Okay.
It's Yeah.
Too bad we didn't make the choice to buy it earlier.
Well,
I think we
part-
hoped we didn't
it's
need
been-
it this long earlier.
Yeah. We talked about it earlier and then they kind of have been not connecting. Like we haven't received any of the bills yet. And so this would be taking us to February. So that's why we're gonna go back and say, hey,
Now I see what you mean, not to rent.
Yeah.
Let's get some credit on
yes,
this.
yeah, I'm hoping we can leverage that into a good deal.
I make a motion that it's 13.4. That's the price.
Mhm.
I make a motion that we pay the pay request. No, I'm looking at
Change
order
order
number
number
5. Change order number 5 for
sorry.
equipment rental, 13,400.
CJ, I'll second.
Sorry. Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I just wanted to say that in Public Works, Sarah made the point of complimenting Mike on how good he's been to offer
Right.
this kind of thing to let us save some money. So all along, I think he really has been trying to save us some money. So
Yeah, I agree with that. Mike's been.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call, please. Thank you.
Emma,
Aye.
Oh, shoot, yeah, waiting. Yeah.
Todd Spade,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
and Todd Kirking.
Aye.
All right. Item number 15, review and approval of pay request number 6.
Okay, so finally, we have the final pay request for the Main Street Tap project. I have been waiting and waiting for them to finish. The reason we were holding back their retainage because we needed them to get our street signs up. There was a few things that we needed them to repair and they were just moving so slow. And so we were like, you know what? Let's keep $50,000 of their money. Maybe that will get their attention. And so finally they've done that work that we need done. And if you note here, we ended up having that 10,514 for liquidated damages. So that, and they, okayed that. So meaning the overage on the engineering because of the time that it took, because it was longer than it needed to was originally planned, they're paying for that. That's what that 10,514. And we also have work. So if you look at we're actually under budget from the construction work, and all of the additional stuff is like work we added to the project to do concrete repairs and things like that, like the in front of the bus garage and whatnot. And so, good and bad, because that ends up like we got an 80% grant, so we're not paying this full 50,000. But then it also means that there's grant we didn't use. That was the unfortunate thing. But I tried to put as much in there as we could, including like closure curb that we put in for closures of the driveway at like Wonder State and Buzzies. That's in here. So that's nice. So looking for final payment, it's at $49,775.
This is AJ. Make a motion to pay request number 6 for the Main Street project in the total of $49,700.75.
Todd, I'll second it.
Got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
Cindy,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
and Emma.
Aye.
All right, item number 16, review and approval of pay request number 4 for the Broken Welcome Center project.
Not having to switch screens between Sarah and I, can you knock out the non-lapsing
Might be happy.
number 17, and then we'll circle back to the Welcome Center?
All right, we're going to move on to item number 17, which is discussion with possible action on non-lapsing fund request materials maintenance.
Okay, so for those of you that were a part of the finance meeting, you will realize that there was a significant amount of public works funds that were not going to be spent in 2025 that were budgeted for in 2025. Predominantly, my dad's spelling. Sorry, there's no spell checker. Well, that I'd use. So this was in Public Works for the 73,609.78. We talked about this previously at the last meeting. This is because mostly we were going to do Chicago Avenue as a resurfacing project. Given the way that our capital improvement outlook is for capital improvement projects, the fact that the landfill came into play all of a sudden, I foresaw that there's going to be a lot less projects that we're going to be able to fund than we thought originally. And so in an effort to try to hit the most critical spots, I held on to this for this year because I want to do East South Street with some of this money. And I had asked the DOT to move the DOT money that's going to go forward for this from Prairie Wind Way over to Chicago Avenue, and I needed to switch it again, and it takes time. Like it took like 3 months for them to approve it. Oh, shoot.
You don't have to repeat it because mine was on and they caught
Okay,
it.
okay.
Go ahead.
Good. So that was what we had talked about in Public Works. The other part of it is that when we did Prairie Wind, we ended up going with the seal coat, and we had to do a repair of the gravel work we did by the culvert. And so the seal coater didn't want to do it so late in the year. So we also will have that. So there was basically like projects that just ended up getting pushed off. And that was that 73,609.78, which is in street and maintenance material. And that was what the Public Works approved. However,
It's actually 76 cents.
oops, 76.
Yes.
Oopsies.
Pennies make dollars. Sorry. I
No,
haven't discontinued my pennies yet.
pennies matter, at least for when you're in accounting area of the world. Okay, so then I was working with Nate today, going through the budget, and he's like, geez, you know, some of these things that you just didn't get to because we were busy doing other things this year, you know, maybe we should be thinking about with non-lapsing. And I fully agree about that because it's just timing. So this one is maybe not just timing. This one is that when we did the gas and oil budget for Public Works last year, we only had the diesel tank for like 3 months. And so I tried to make a conservative estimate, but still like knowing that I didn't see the full picture of what last year was. And we ended up saving a lot of money. So that one, I actually want to redirect, so to speak. We have some money in sidewalks. This one is a timing thing. I think like as we have new management in that department, like they're just getting used to doing sort of extras. And we just never got to those extras last year. And we also didn't have a hazardous sidewalk repair program last year. And then the other one is garage other. We are just doing well, which is nice. We didn't do a lot of like garage improvements this year, but I'm putting all those into shop improvements because like we really need to do it. I don't know. This is going back to this whole capital improvement plan. If you remember the capital improvement plan, I stuck like a shop upgrade lump item and I lumped everything together. But knowing again, we don't have a lot of money, it'd be really nice if we could really go through, like our doors are
Right.
terrible. Our
So-
overhead doors are terrible.
So, and Sarah, what I'll say is, I don't know if necessarily tonight you need to commit to your intended uses.
Okay.
I think
perfect.
in general, what we're trying to establish is, what I can say is that the amount that you have on there based on my conversations with you today and review of the materials, I am confident that you're not going to spend that. We had that conversation today. That's number one, is making sure we're not keeping over non-lapsing funds that are actually going to be spent this year. And then what I would recommend, due to the dollar amounts of these, you're going to have to come back and say, I would like to spend this money on this because, and that will give you more time to really figure it out. So I don't think we necessarily need to go to
Yeah.
this level of detail.
Okay.
right now.
Well, I just want to make sure you guys have an idea of why I'm asking for these things. So the other two would be machinery equipment and street other, and it is equipment like sander for our pickup truck that we're looking at purchasing. So, and we can get into those details later. So the ask is if we could do all of these as non-lapsing funds that we would use in 2026, and I would say that we're probably going to use them in the first parts of 2026, save the street projects, obviously. But we would like to use it. We've got things to fix and equipment to get.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
So at Public Works, we approved 73,000 and now you want us to approve 126.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. I'm making motion that we do that for the non-lapsing fund, 126,609.76. Non-lapsing fund request
I'm-
materials.
Bill, I'll get a second on that first, but I got a question.
This is Todd. I second the motion.
Go ahead, Lori.
Normally on a non-lapsing fund, you're taking it out of one account and you're taking it out of multiples where you usually do a budget amendment versus doing a non-lapsing. So this is the first I've heard this. So this makes me a little nervous on how you're deciding to do this before the end of the year in case there's things that may come up in there. Where the 73,609.76, I had a chance to go through what we had spent it on. This I haven't. So I wish that you would amend your motion to say contingent on my review of these accounts because the use of non-lapsing, this is getting a little out of the realm of non-lapsing funds
Because it's multiple.
because it's multiple accounts. Usually it's the one account you're lapsing over. This is like taking your entire budget and moving it into a non-lapsing, which
Only
is
half
not
of- only half the
necessarily.
budget.
Well, it's not usually the way you handle non-lapsing funds. So if I can have that time to look at this and get those numbers from you, I would really appreciate it because this is the first I've seen this.
It just came up today at around
Right.
11 o'clock.
Yeah, I make my motion contingent upon Lori reviewing it and approving it.
And I also second the changes.
Any other questions? Roll call vote.
Okay, we're on Cindy,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
I,
Andrew,
I,
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
I,
Oh,
Yes, you would.
okay.
and Todd Spade.
Aye.
All right. Back to item 16, review and approval of pay request number 4 for the Welcome Center. If you need to take a quick
Sarah, can I get that?
5 minutes, now would be a good time to do that. No. Right. Keep rolling, Nate.
you got the limo? You want to take the limo?
I drove that snow.
Oh, shit.
You could stand.
All right, folks, we're almost there. Pay request number 4, Baroka Welcome Center. is on the screen here. It was late in coming. Part of the reason we have so many pay requests is it's the end of the year. We're hoping not to have a meeting in 2 weeks, so everybody's rushing to get it in on our request. So this is from Dan Moen's group, has been reviewed by Mark Zettler and Levi Sisbach from Veerbecker. It's a little bit of a mess here because they basically had to go and rework the numbers. And very similar to the motion you made, I would say you can approve this contingent on me getting one last look at it because it arrived so late in the day. But if Mark and Levi are both confident in it, it gives me enough confidence that you can approve it just contingent on me having one last look on it. And as you can tell, it's somewhat messy in here because some of the numbers on Mark's sheet were just incorrectly placed. So for all those reasons, I think it's solid. Cindy and I go to these meetings once every 2 weeks. They're making great progress on the building. We have no doubt that the pay request is appropriate. I would just like one more glance at it just because as you can tell, it's a mess. So
Make a motion, we pay request number 4 for the Viroqua Welcome Center of $73,640.94 contingent upon Nate being able to look at it again.
That was second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Steve,
Aye.
Seth,
Aye.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
Aye.
Emma,
Aye.
yes.
Todd Spath,
Aye.
and Cindy.
Aye.
All right, item number 18, discussion with possible action on capital budget for 2026 IT capital purchases.
So my apologies to the group. This had been intended to be brought up earlier, but as part of the budget team's efforts, we had gotten a large number of IT items into the operating budget, and those items are generally shown in the spreadsheet here. And just disregard my conversation with Mike from MCS Networks. But all these items in here are already within the budget, right? So a replacement for Joy's PC, a couple replacements for the street departments, some updates to the PD, all things that are necessary for a variety of reasons per my conversation with Mike. A lot of it to do with upgrades to Windows 11 and computers just not being able to handle it. There were 3 items, though, that were a larger of size that are necessary, but we couldn't fit into the operating budget. And those are a server replacement for here at City Hall, a server replacement for the police department, and 2 replacements of the mobile data terminals for the PD. And so what our proposal was going to be as a budget team was that the city allow us to use debt proceeds that we've already borrowed to take care of these IT items. And I don't love that we have to do that, but when we as a budget team looked at it, we identified that these are necessary pieces of equipment. City Hall cannot run without a server. The PD cannot run without a server, and those squad cars cannot run without their data terminals. And they're so large that we can't fit them into the budget and make levy limits. So unfortunately, the real option that we have in front of us is that as part of the 2025 B debt service, this was all the projects that we had borrowed for. And it was the salt shed, the landfill, the Eckert Playground for 375 Center Avenue. And then within that, we have 90,000 for parks improvements to be decided. We already decided this one on the Eckert Playground, by the way. So I need to update that. 95,000 for possible public works project, 25,000 for other department projects, and then this was the cost of issuance, which wasn't actually right, but I'll get into that later. So long story short, what we're talking about is taking $33,000 from one of these not Eckert Playground, from one of these categories, or maybe hopefully something that not spent in landfill remediation to pay for this IT equipment. The reason I hate doing this is I usually, when we're making capital planning, funding decisions, we look at all the projects that want funding and make decisions based on all the projects next to each other. But I don't know in what way we can say no to replacing our servers as 2 core items that ensure that 2 departments run and they can't without it. So that's sort of the pitch today. And we are working with Mike to try to get ahead of increases in costs. So again, my pitch to you would be, and again, these are estimates, so I would say up to 35,000 in cost for those 4 items that I showed, which is 2 mobile data terminals and server replacements for both the PD and City Hall.
Hold on. I have a question. Sorry.
I do.
That's
I
your
do.
question. Are you gonna make a motion or ask a
I
question?
was gonna ask a question. With the money that was not spent, that was budgeted for, but was not spent, the contingency money within the fire station, does that fit into this equation at all?
Yeah, it certainly is borrowed money and that can be leveraged, but until that project is done, I'm not necessarily putting it up on the board there, but yes, that is part of our capital funding equation that will come up when we resume our capital improvement planning process. But for right now, I'm trying to keep it simple and only go off of funds that we already have in hand and borrowed for, and we haven't decided exactly what to do with a portion of.
I guess what, could that backfill any of this?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And also, I know the interest from some of these has been attributed like just into the general fund, right, for expenses for next year. So we've made interest in some of these investments.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the borrowed funds have sat in an investment account, generated interest, but that interest counted as revenue
Yes.
in the budget. So it's already figured into like next year's expenditure.
Yeah, there's a little bit of revenue, interest revenue expected in next year, but not the same level that we've already gained. Like this year, we've gained a tremendous amount in interest. And part of what my explanation to you guys was, is like, let's use that to refill our cash position after taking a couple hits on it over the course of the years.
Sure.
And so I don't necessarily want to say it's like, oh, we have cash on hand. Let's go into that. I would say let's focus on borrowing first and then see where we're at with our cash position when it comes to the full capital planning.
Sure. And that's fair. I knew we had that out there and I just figured I'd ask in case anybody else was thinking. The other question I had, and I keep wanting to ask Rick this, but the MDTs, those are tough books essentially, that not other cellular devices for the vehicle. They're just your tough book. Okay. Thank you. They're agreeing. Yeah. Thank you. Now somebody can make a motion if they
Where is
like.
this coming out of?
That proceeds we already have on hand.
This is AJ. I make a motion to approve up to 35,000 borrowed from the debt proceed for the replacement of City Hall and PD server replacements and squad car terminals.
I'll second AJ's high quality motion.
Seth,
Aye.
Sorry,
Andrew,
roll call,
Aye.
please.
Todd, Kirking, Emma,
Yep.
Todd Spath,
I,
Cindy,
Aye.
and Steve.
Aye.
All right, item number 19, discussion action on canceling the December 30th, 2025 city council meeting, which,
Make a motion, we can.
thanks, Cindy.
Todd, I'll second it.
I got a motion and a second. Any questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, payment of the bills.
I make a motion, we pay the bills, but I'll let
Fine,
Lori
I'm not
talk
gonna
about
bring your
it too.
presents then.
All right, we've got a motion to pay the bills. Do we have a second?
This is AJ. I'll second.
All right, we've got a motion and a second. Do you have anything, Lori?
I need
Should
to
we-
add one. I forgot to do this at finance, but we do have a Visa bill for our Microsoft, Zoom, the Dropbox, and some miscellaneous things from City Hall for cleaning and stuff that I didn't have on the list, but I wanted to add them for the payments. So before you make a final vote on it, I just wanted to add that in.
Yeah.
And that amount, and that's $397.09 to add in.
$397.09 for the Visa bill. Amend my motion.
I'll second that.
Yep, we got a second for that. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Andrew,
Aye.
Todd Kirking,
All right.
Emma,
Aye.
Yep.
Todd Spath,
I,
Cindy,
Aye.
Steve,
Aye.
and Seth.
Aye.
All right. 21, second period for public comment. We've got nobody in house, nothing online, so I take a motion to adjourn.
Gotta make a motion, adjourn.
AJ. I'll second.
All right, got a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
I.
Opposed? Thank you.
819.
Well done.
No.
More so
More so. More so. No, more so. No, it has nothing to do with the game. I want to go home.